Yes, yes, you are tapped into the Crucial Combo podcast. This is your graceful host, Kojo Afriye. We're going to get into this. We have so much going on, man. I don't even know if I have enough time to go over all the stuff that's going on in the world lately, but we're going to get into a few things tonight. So, man, what is going on with women today? We are going to get into Tracee Ellis Ross. She's been kind of all over the internet. People are talking about her appearance on the Michelle Obama podcast, which, by the way, is not doing so well, but it is interesting. So, the prior first lady has her podcast. The numbers aren't crazy right now, but I've watched a few of the episodes. She's had Issa Rae on there. She's had a few people. What's his name? Seth something, I forgot. Damn, what's his name? But anyway, she's had a few people on there. But the latest episode was Tracee Ellis Ross. I want to get into some of the stuff she talked about because I'm not sure what's happening with women, but I do think that we got to talk about this whole wanting to being okay with being alone and dying alone and all this stuff. And I know that this is a hot button topic ever since pretty much since Kevin Samuels made a show and a whole career based on telling women that they are waiting too long to find husbands. And I'm not going to beat that dead horse. I want to approach it from a different angle. So let me play a little bit of what she had to talk about first, because I think it's interesting.
I think there's really good men out there. I think to a certain extent, I'm a very unique sort of unicorn of a woman.
Yes, you
And
are.
so it's going to take a unique person. And in the meantime, I have really learned how to live my life and enjoy it and not sit around waiting. I was saying to someone recently that I'm one of the first generations of choice, and it's not anymore, which really, there was a window and that has shifted. And I do think that that's going to change dating for women so much.
You would, when you mean you've been the sort of the product of choice.
Yeah,
you
like
mean
the assumption of Roe v. Wade
Yeah.
and the ability for a woman to find her own delight and pleasure and choice around how she navigates dating or how one would navigate dating. And we're in a different world now.
Right
and I'm
about that.
curious what that will look like. It frightens me for younger girls because of many reasons, obviously. But even with the systemic protection of Roe v. Wade, I still was coming up against the cultural norms of being a choiceful woman and owning my own body and my own choices and what it is that I'm looking for in a relationship and the ability to negotiate in a relationship what it is you want the relationship to be between the two of you.
She's essentially kind of tying in the right to have an abortion and then the choice of what you want your relationship to look like. So we've destroyed women. I think we really destroyed women. I think in many ways, look, I grew up in the 80s, and I've said this before on other episodes. All the women in my life, my mom worked, my dad worked, all of my friends' moms worked. So I'm not coming from the 60s where women are, barefoot pregnant and just housewives. So women have had choices for a long time. What women are missing now, and men for that matter, are missing is structure. And I think that this is what's leading to this whole I'm going to be alone and I'm so unique, regardless whether you believe in God or don't. The creation of human beings, every human being is unique. We're all unique and we all have our own way. There's no two of any of us. So uniqueness is not something any of us have a monopoly on. I think that all the older women who have gotten to a point where maybe they didn't find a partner have now gotten to a place where they're trying to make their life about, this freedom. Women have this freedom. Women have had freedom for a long time. It's not about freedom. It's really about being intentional about what you want. These older women, man, they're not even giving younger women any good advice anymore. And what's really crazy is when I watch Michelle Obama being the former first lady, and she's older than Tracee Ellis Ross. I think Michelle Obama is probably around 60. Looks great for her age and is, still beloved by a lot of people. She's not even given her any feedback. I guess it's just we're just letting everything ride.
Opposed to what society says it should be.
Well, I
that's different.
I don't know that we're gonna lose that. I think women, we're used to having a say in our lives.
Yeah.
And I don't know whether the whole movement is about sort of reharnessing us,
Sure.
whether is it really about,
and can that really
reproductive
work?
rights? Can that really work now that women are educated and we're being raised differently? I mean, the truth is that fathers are modernized.
Yes.
Right? I mean,
Mostly.
Mostly they are, and if you were to ask the average man, how are you raising your daughter? Because you love her. The average father that loves their daughter wants them to be excellent, and they want them to have opportunity and freedom. I mean, when you think about you don't want your daughter saddle marrying some guy that chose her because he just didn't think about anything else
and who believes that her body is his choice.
Exactly.
As a father, right? I'm a father. I have a daughter, right? She's not of age to get any abortion or anything like that, or even to have sex for that matter yet. But she'll get to that age in time, right? And of course, dads, we have been evolved. But dads are not evolving. Dads have been evolved. Dads want their daughters to go to school. We want our daughters to have healthy relationships. We want our daughters to do well, independent of a man, no doubt. But here's the thing we're not talking about. And this is the thing before I get to the last part of Tracee Ellis Ross. The thing we're not talking about is dads don't want their daughters to get to a point to have an abortion. They don't want their daughters to get in situations where they're not protecting themselves, right? So it's not that you can't have sex, or it's not that you're going to stop anybody from doing anything. Women again, this isn't about freedom. It's really about women having order. And I think if you're a dad, what you want your daughter to have is some level of order in her life, right? And you also want her to be able to hopefully have positive relationships and end up like a Michelle Obama, right? Marrying somebody who is, Barack Obama may not be perfect, but he, on many scales, is a normal man who got married to Michelle. They lived together, and have been together, married for over 20 years, have 2 kids. They have a structure in their life. Whether they're perfect or not, whether they're in the midst of divorce like everybody's talking about, it's neither here nor there. You know what I'm saying? But it's something to strive to. So the problem is there's no parameters. We're not putting no parameters in for women, and especially older women like Tracee Ellis Ross. It's not a crime to not get married. You don't have to get married and have a traditional structure, but not having a traditional life, as far as a family structure, is not about freedom. It's really about the choice and being intentional. These things don't happen just because they're going to happen. So when it comes to, Roe versus Wade and women's choices, these are all things being mixed in. To me, for younger women, it's all being mixed into this idea that, don't fall into any parameters or any structure, because that is impending or impeding your freedom. And this is crazy work for young women, right? We're not giving women direct messages anymore, and that's the problem. I think that we're scared to give women direct messages about what they should be, what they should strive for. Personally, I'm not talking about education wise. We're telling women what they should do education wise, as far as going to get the bag and reaching for heights career wise, but we're not telling women anything personal, because we're afraid we're going to offend women. We're going to offend them if we say, you know what, you should aim for, a structured life. You should aim for having a husband and having children and having a structured family when you go to do that. We're not pushing that on women. And we're not really pushing that on men so much either. But especially for women, we're not pushing that on them because it sounds like you're trying to hold them back and tell them what to do. And this is dangerous, I think, for younger women.
I did dream of my wedding growing up. And that's not to say that I didn't dream of the bigness of my life, but I could have spent a lot more time dreaming of my life. And as much as grief does surface for me around not having children and not having a partner, I still wouldn't want the wrong partner.
That's a great point for people to hear.
I'm not interested in that. You have to make my life better. It can't just be, I'm in a relationship to be in a relationship. So even though the grief does emerge and that comes and I hold that, I think of what I've done, and I woke up every morning trying to do my best. I didn't wake up one morning and be like, I'm going to mess this day up.
That's right.
So I must be where I'm supposed to be. And I don't know. Sometimes I think of all of the things I've done, the courage that I've had to have, and what I've had to learn how to navigate as a single person with no one to hide behind.
Yeah.
First of all, when it comes to what she had to say, now this isn't to knock her personal life, right? That's her life. Who am I to tell her what her experience is? But here's the thing. So a couple of things that she said, she did dream about marriage like a lot of people do, right? And, she wasn't able to find somebody in the time that she wanted. But here's the thing about the wrong partner. And I'm saying this as somebody who's been married 10 years, right? Everybody's going to be the wrong partner. You're never going to find somebody who's the right partner, right? You're going to find somebody you're compatible with. And then guess what? You got to make it work. And then guess what? You have to learn to grow. You have to learn to compromise. And you have to learn to love another person fully and understand another person fully. And they have to do the same thing for you in order for you to actually be married. So, when she says, I'd rather be married to nobody than the wrong person, right? I get that, but again, I look at everything that when we put out all this information, right? When we on these internet streets putting out information, I look at this stuff and I say, you know what? What would I tell my daughter? What would I tell my son? And that's the approach. What will you tell the next young people coming up, right? So what are you gonna tell them? So to be like, well, it's better to be with nobody than be with the wrong partner. That always deserves context, right? So again, she ain't wrong. She's speaking about her own experience, right? But as an OG, as you get older, the young people need context, and the context is nobody's gonna be right. Nobody's going to be the right person for you. It'll seem like they're the right person when you first meet them. When you first going out and everything's great, everything's cool, you agree on everything, you ain't had no real conflicts, you ain't been through nothing, everything's going to be right. But guess what? You're going to come to a place. Ask anybody who's been married a long time. My in-laws been married like 56 years, right? They've been married since 1964, something like that, or 68, something like that. But it's been a long time. And I listen to the OGs. I listen to people who've been married a long time. And everybody who's been married, if you make it up to like 10 years, then you've done something. Because any of y'all getting married and you've been divorced in 2 years, listen, you don't know nothing. You ain't been through nothing. 2 years ain't long enough. But my point being is that the thing that OGs need to say, people who get older, to me, they got to tell the young people, like, listen, this whole idea of meeting the right person and everything's going to align up will have your ass growing old and lonely. And this to me is sad because Tracee Ellis Ross, somebody who had access, and everybody wanted to be with her. She had plenty of opportunity, and like a lot of women who are famous, who are attractive, who have a lot of options, no particular structure, probably choosing the wrong people. You got to be intentional about choosing the right people, the right person to try to build a life with. And that takes work. And a lot of people feel like, yo, I don't need to put in work. I just need to be happy, and people need to make me happy, and everything has to be right for me when I want it. That's not an ingredient to actually be with anybody. But needless to say, I'm going to move on from Tracee Ellis Ross because, again, I think she felt like she was saying something profound. It's just another woman who got old, didn't find somebody, and it's okay. There's no crime in being alone. I mean, it's not going to be everybody's not going to end up with a picket fence, 2 kids, 3 kids, and the perfect relationship. That's not the issue. The issue is that the issue really is, do you look at it and say in your life, well, the right person didn't come along, it just didn't happen for me? Or do you need to be intentional? If that's what you really want, being more intentional and striving for that. Younger people, we have to help them understand that if they want that type of structure, they want that type of thing in their life, you have to strive for it. It ain't going to just happen to you. That's just the reality. Listen, I'm so glad you're enjoying the content. I try to never take days off. You know who else never takes a day off? Hackers. Every day they're breaking into the databases of major companies trying to steal our information. They take that info, sell it to spammers and identity thieves so they can target you. And the crazy part is they never even face consequences. The government can ban TikTok, but they can't stop identity theft. We got to protect ourselves. That's why I use today's sponsor, Aura. You know the internet can be like the wild, wild west out here, and Aura keeps me safe. They identify data brokers who are trying to sell my information online, and they automatically submit an opt-out request on my behalf. Give Aura just a few weeks and you'll stop seeing your information on these sites when you go to search yourself, which will definitely lead to less spam. The great thing is that Aura will continue to monitor the dark web for me and let me know if any of my personal information has been exposed. They're going to let me know really fast if anyone is trying to use my information to access my credit or my bank account. On top of that, they're going to give me $5 million. Yeah, I said it, $5 million in identity theft insurance if the worst case scenario happens. The Aura app also has a VPN with 100+ virtual locations. Does your current VPN have that many features? I doubt it. Go to my link in the description at Aura/Crucial Convo Pod and try it for 14 days for free. That'll be more than enough time for Aura to find out if any of your personal information has been exposed. So let me get into, got to get into Willie D, man. Willie D, he had Vlad from Vlad TV on his show. And listen, man, Willie D, first of all, I didn't know how close him and Vlad were, that they had a great relationship for a long time. But, you know, Vlad TV, let me give him his props, because Vlad was really, to me, he was kind of early as far as doing all these interviews and really turning his his show is really a podcast. It's really interviews, but his show is more interview based, and he's, you know, been criticized over the years as far as interviewing people and people getting indicted based on what they say on his show. I've never been somebody who blamed Vlad for who spoke whatever on his show. It ain't his responsibility to censor people. People was getting on there and just crashing out, telling all the things they've done, and some people ended up, you know, in trouble because there's no statute of limitations on things. But needless to say, because of some of the things with Vlad, I think over time his show is still mad popular, his channel is mad popular, but it's kind of lost a little bit of steam to me, because there's been a lot of channels that have popped up and have really done better over time and taken some of Vlad's market share. That's what it seems to be. So Art of Dialogue being one. There's plenty of other shows. Willie D, a lot of other shows that are coming up. Shannon Sharp, Club Shay Shay. There's a lot of channels that's been coming up, taking, I think, some of Vlad's market share. So needless to say, Vlad has been coming off the porch a little bit. You know what I'm saying? He's meaning that he's been coming off the porch. He used to be somebody who was behind the camera. He's been seen a lot more over the last couple of years, being on other people's shows, and people realize and see who Vlad is. But anyway, point being is that a couple of years ago, it might have been 2 years ago, I could be wrong, but somewhere around that time, Vlad had made a comment about Minister Farrakhan. He had made some comments about Minister Farrakhan. He didn't want to apologize, and he had fell out with the comedian Godfrey, and he fell out with Lord Jamar, the legendary from Brand Nubians. They were on Vlad's show. They were pretty reoccurring guests on his show. He fell out with them because of the fact that, you know, Vlad had said something about Minister Farrakhan. They got on a private call with him and asked him to apologize. Vlad refused. So the past couple of years, you know, some people stopped messing with Vlad altogether. He hasn't really addressed it. Vlad has been on other people's podcasts, and he has never addressed it until now. So
I felt that it was time to address it. And I told you for, a little while now that when I address it, I'm going to address it with you. And that's what I'm doing right now.
So you kept your word?
Yeah.
Kept your word?
Yeah.
How bad did it get out there? You know, because I can only, we didn't talk about it every single instance that came up that was a remnant of that action. So how bad did it get?
I think it personally got bad because some of the people that I was thinking, like in the same way that you and I had conversations, those conversations remain private, right?
Right.
I respect you, you respect me. And when we have these types of conversations and I open up to you and I say certain things about what's happening, I know that the next day you're not going to run to the internet and say, something Vlad told me in a personal phone call that he really feels this way and so forth. So I was talking to a number of people who I thought we had relationships. I thought they were my friends. I thought that we were, there's a level of trust and so forth, only to have those people turn around and start making videos the next day about these conversations. And these conversations weren't represented properly a lot of times.
I know that you apologized, but I don't know if you really understand the depth of how people feel about Farrakhan. Like, he's not a regular dude. Like, I know he's a human being like us, and he bleed and breathe just like everybody else. He gets colds and, what I'm saying, his stomach hurts sometimes, and get food poisoning. I got all of that. But Farrakhan is so revered because he take the hits. Heavy is the head that wear the crown. And he has worn the crown for a long time. And his head has been heavy for a long time for wearing that crown. And, he's been misrepresented, misunderstood for a long, long, long time. What I want to know is, when Farrakhan does talk about Jews, oftentimes when he do talk about Jews, he talk about he speaks specifically. He don't put everybody in one bunch and say, this is all you guys. He talk about specific guys who did this or did that or did that. What I want to know is, like, why is it that it seems to me like most of the Jewish community have an issue with Farrakhan speaking the truth? Because he don't lie.
I want to just give my point of view as to why Minister Farrakhan is revered in the Black community. So here's my take on it, right? So Minister Farrakhan is revered in the Black community for a couple of reasons, in my opinion. One, because he's been around a long time. I mean, Minister Farrakhan has pretty much been around, going all the way back to the most important leaders in the Black community as far as civil rights. So he goes back to Malcolm X, he goes back to Martin Luther King, and most of the leaders who were in the 60s, 50s and 60s. So Minister Farrakhan goes back that far. But so the lineage, how far he goes back or how long he's been around, that's one thing I think. The other thing too is that whether you're in the Nation of Islam or not, in the Black community, people respect Minister Farrakhan, and Willie D talks a little bit about that. Minister Farrakhan, he's somebody who he will basically tell anybody what he thinks about what the truth is. He will hold anybody accountable, including Black people, right? So the difference between here's the difference. The reason why Minister Farrakhan, in my opinion, is more revered in the Black community than the average minister, right? Is because the Nation of Islam has always been about calling out what they see as wrong as far as systematic racism and racism in general, but also they hold their own members accountable for their actions and their structure. So the Nation of Islam has always been heavy on family structure. Anybody who's, been in jail, they help them come out. When they come out, they help them work. So it's about holding the man accountable to being the head of his household, holding the man accountable for marrying the woman he has children with, holding the man accountable for providing for his family, and really focusing on family structure. So I'm not here to argue about the actual religion. They're revered because Minister Farrakhan can talk to anybody. He can talk about people outside the Black community, and he can talk to the Black community in a way where whether you agree or don't disagree, you respect it. He is not someone who's been steeped in strange scandals, to say the least. He hasn't been involved in that. And he's a man of respect, like I said. Whether you agree with him or not, he's a man of respect in the Black community. So even Black people don't really criticize Minister Farrakhan like that. It just don't work like that. I remember my mom and dad had a good friend who lived actually lived next door to Minister Farrakhan in Chicago. And let me tell you about Minister Farrakhan's block. This is just my take. I remember being there in 1998, I want to say it was. And listen, man, I don't care what's going on in the blocks a couple of blocks away. But let me tell you, on Woodlawn, on Minister Farrakhan's block, quiet as a church mouse. And I imagine it's still like that. As wild as Chicago can be, people don't play with the NOI and Minister Farrakhan. It's just a level of respect. So, but that's a big reason why Vlad didn't understand. He doesn't understand that.
But I think there's a certain knee-jerk reaction when someone who's not of your immediate group talks about your group, right?
Okay, I hear that.
A black person can talk about other black people, but when a white person talks about black people, it's a problem.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, for example, when you look at like the Breakfast Club, and it was the owner of the Eagles, I believe, was on the show and was saying, he doesn't like how black people attack other black people like Meek Mill, and they call him gay and stuff like that. And there was a big backlash over that.
Yeah, I remember that guy.
Right.
Was he the owner of the...
Was the Eagles?
The Eagles? It was that guy that do the parties, right?
Yeah, right. That
him.
Guy. Yeah, I forgot. Maybe he's not the owner of the Eagles. He owns some sports team.
Okay,
I'm sorry, I'm misrepresenting him because I'm just trying to address what you're saying. But he made comments about the black community.
Yeah,
and there was a huge backlash over it.
Right,
and he said that someone who I respect more than anyone else reached out to me and showed me the error of my ways and let me apologize. He was probably talking about Jay-Z.
Okay.
Which is what most people thought. But that's the thing. When people have a certain level of leeway of talking about their own group. I could talk about how I don't like how the Israeli government is handling the conflict with Hamas. I could say how it's too heavy-handed. I could say that I'm not a fan of Netanyahu and so forth. But I'm Jewish, and I could say that. A Muslim person or a black person saying that might get accused of being anti-Semitic. But it's the same statement from both people. But based on the person saying it, it's going to be taken a different type of way.
A lot of black people who respect the minister aren't Muslims. You know what I'm saying? So it's not a religious thing. It's really a black community, black American reverence people have for Minister Farrakhan. And I'm sure that there's people that may not like him either, but they just respect him. So there's some people you just can't really talk about. You know what I'm saying? And the biggest issue for Vlad to me is that most of the people that he deal with are black American. Vlad has been involved in hip hop culture in some form or fashion. So really his whole platform and his channel and the way he monetized was by being entrenched in black American culture. And in black American culture, you really can't talk about Minister Farrakhan. There's just no ways around it. So if Vlad is dealing with some other culture, some other group, then he don't have to give a damn about what he says about Minister Farrakhan. But when you are entrenched in black American culture, man, listen, man, it's just a memo. It is what it is. He didn't get the memo. Minister Farrakhan, off limits if you want to eat with black people, period. This is a quick one. I want to talk about this, man. Listen, when I go to the ATM, man, I don't go to the ATM often because I pay with everything with my phone. I barely have cash on me half the time. So, but when I go to the ATM, I don't play games. You can't be standing too close to me. I don't want to talk. Don't try to have a conversation when I'm taking out money from the ATM because I don't trust anybody when I'm getting around cash. I turn into a real asshole. Two times I turn into a real asshole. If I'm somewhere with my children, with my kids, you know what I mean? Like the other day I was at the park with my kids and I keep an eye on my kids. I watch my kids like hawks. This is the type of dad I am. And, you know, some guy came up to me asking me for money, you know what I'm saying? No disrespect to the homeless. I have a lot of empathy, but don't talk to me when I'm trying to pay attention to my kids. And when I'm trying to get money, when I'm messing with cash, I don't want people walking up on me. It's the way it is. So anyway, here's a story where a woman went to take some money out the ATM and she got scammed. She got finessed with this new thing. So I'm gonna play this.
It wasn't Sarah's lucky day. It was a setup for a classic $20 distraction scam. And by the time it was over, thousands had vanished from her bank account and her daughter's.
And this is the Ralph's I usually come to.
On Wednesday, April 16th, Sarah went to Ralph's grocery store on Satakoy Street and Louise Avenue in Van Nuys. As she was using her debit card to pay, a stranger approached her and said
that I dropped $20. And I said, no, I don't think I did. And I was putting my PIN into the machine, and he came much closer to me and was kind of pushing the $20 into my wallet. You need to back up, back off.
It all happened in a matter of seconds. Sarah kept insisting.
And I'm like, no, this is yours. This isn't mine.
As Sarah walked back to her car, the same man, now joined by a woman, followed her, again insisting she take the $20. They continued to invade her space.
I knew it wasn't mine. The reason I was getting cash back was because all I had was a couple dollars.
Sarah left the parking lot feeling weird about the encounter. She checked her wallet to see if maybe they had taken any of her cash. They hadn't, but something else was missing.
My heart sank because my debit card wasn't there.
Within 30 minutes, the scammers made multiple withdrawals at Chase Bank several miles away. In total, nearly $5,000 was taken from Sarah's account and her daughter Jennifer's too, because their accounts are linked.
My money is gone and I had just gotten paid, and I'm a teacher. I don't make a lot of money. I really don't. And what I make goes to the things I need, and we can't cover that right now. So it's hard to know that someone can take what you have so easily.
Jennifer filed a police report and shared the story online. She was stunned by the response. One after another, people commented the same thing had happened to them or their loved ones.
But let's go back and break down what happened, right? So if you didn't catch what happened in this scheme, so this is essentially what it sounded like the criminals did, right? So what they do, you're at the ATM, and it sounds like she was at the ATM. They were probably close to the ATM, right? Probably looking at her PIN number, right? Because, I don't know if you guys know, like I bank at Chase, right? Some of these Chase ATMs, you have to have the card to walk in, but a lot of times in these little corridors or little, not hallways, but just little sections of ATMs, it's a lot of people in there sometimes lined up trying to get to the ATM. So many times, listen, if you're not paying attention, someone could essentially stare at you from a distance and see what your PIN number is, right? Now, your PIN number means nothing if they don't have your card. So even if they see that you hit 7277 or whatever, they can't do anything if they don't have your card. But here's the thing that they're doing. So what they'll do, if you didn't catch it, once they kind of in the proximity to probably, watch her PIN number, as she gets ready to walk away, they say, yo, you dropped the 20. So she's like, no, I didn't drop a 20. Well, you dropped the 20. Here you go. And they essentially stuffed it in her purse or whatever that was still open or whatever it is, and was able to grab her card at the same time. Now, listen, again, I don't know how they got that close to her, because for me, like I said, if you talk to me while I'm getting cash, I'm going to have an attitude, and I'm probably not the guy that, they're going to try that on. But an older woman, somebody a little more innocent, somebody a little more, not forgiving, but somebody a little more less suspicious, because I'm suspicious of everybody. So they probably got her because she's not that suspicious. She's like, no, you dropped the 20. They're acting like they're a good Samaritan. Here you go. Here you go. And at the same time, they're grabbing her card. Her card is probably still out or accessible because she just pulled it out the machine. And of course, they put the money in there. She walks away and realizes her debit card is gone. And now they took out all this money. Now, there's so many finesses out here. So, again, don't be a nice person when you're going to get money. Be an asshole when you go to get money. Anybody talks to you, don't talk back to them. Don't even give them any time of day, because if I know I didn't drop a 20, I know I didn't drop a 20. And if you say I dropped a 20, you want to give it to me, you could put it in my hand. You know what I mean? But you sure, but it's for men, we have our wallet, we put it away. But for women, again, be careful, because if you have your purse open, you have everything open, that's an easy finesse. And that's something that makes you may not be as suspicious, because you feel like, why would somebody be giving you a 20 if you didn't drop it? You may feel like, okay, they're giving you a 20. Even if you didn't think you dropped it, you may be like, yo, they think I dropped it and they're trying to do a good thing. No, they're trying to grab your debit card. So everywhere you go, honestly, like I said, I don't carry a lot of cash with me. You know what I'm saying? And they have scanners at gas stations that can scan your card and duplicate your card. It's a lot of wildness out here. So my thing is that one, I wouldn't put all my money in one account. That's one thing I think people could try to do. Don't put all your money in one account if you can help it. Two, listen, if you don't need cash, don't take your ass to the ATM. You don't need cash to do most things anyway. So, all right. So I'm going to go over to Pastor Jamal Bryant. I talked about him before. Now, all right, I'm going to get into the boycott, right? So the first boycott over DEI practices was deployed back in February, Black History Month, right? So we're now in late April. And here's the thing, I had talked about this before. Now, I may have been wrong, because I did tell my wife, when I were talking about this on a couple episodes back, I was like, yo, listen, everybody's saying we should boycott Target and boycott Walmart and Amazon, all these things. And I believe the first one was on February 28th, last day of Black History Month. And I was like, listen, it don't really make any sense, because we already know the DEI mainly doesn't, it's not even really a black issue. Although we make it a black issue, DEI for the most part is not a black issue. We know that for the most part it's typically white women who benefit from it. I ain't mad at it. It is what it is. But I don't think it's something to be focused on so much. But I thought once people boycotted, it was going to be never spoke about again, because the next boycott was supposed to be the end of March. I didn't hear anything. It was crickets. So now it looks like there are there's some demands that Jamal Bryant made and some other people made in the community. This is mainly coming out of the black church, and there's supposed to be a boycott for Target for life. So Target stock price has been down year over year. They have been losing a lot of money. I believe they lost $12 million in the month of the month of February. When the boycott happened, they lost a lot of money for that day. But here's the thing: I'm gonna play a little bit of Jamal Bryant talking about the boycott, and then I'm gonna talk about it after that. So let me play this real quick.
10 weeks after New Birth Missionary Baptist Church launched a Target fast, Pastor Jamal Bryant says it's time to raise the stakes.
So I told them what I'm getting ready to tell you. We ain't going back in there.
On Easter Sunday, Bryant announced the fast would continue as a full boycott after Target slashed diversity programs and, according to Bryant, refused to fulfill most of his demands.
To look at the person beside you and tell them we ain't going in there. We ain't going.
Bryant says he met with Target executives and only one demand was met.
Target has agreed that by July the 31st, they will complete the pledge of $2 billion for black business.
The full list of demands also included restoring DEI efforts, depositing $250 million into black banks, and new partnerships with HBCUs.
I think that what we're asking for is reasonable. Of those four, and 1 out of 4 is not sufficient.
Bryant says the fast, combined with the pre-existing grassroots boycott, hurt Target's bottom line. The company's stock price down nearly $44 per share from the end of January, when the retailer first announced it was ending DEI efforts.
All right, let me pause it there for a second. Now, well, listen, money does talk. I mean, down $44 is nasty work from the time of January. So let's go back to the demands. So it looks like, obviously, people want they want the DEI effort restored. They want $250 million deposited in black banks, and then partnerships with HBCUs. Now, here's the thing: I don't think that that's a horrible thing. I think it is important. One of the things that I had an issue with initially with the boycott, when it was announced back then, it was not, again, Target was one of the main ones, and then it was supposed to be Amazon and other businesses. But I think initially the whole thing was to restore DEI efforts. Now, something to put in perspective is that, Target isn't the be all end all, in my opinion, as far as what we want businesses to do in the Black community. And, you know, I don't know if that's necessarily, again, I think we always want a bad guy, right? We always need to focus on some villain. Right now it's Target. We're going hard on Target, but Target employs Black people. Target also has Black businesses who have product in there. So the thing about the boycott, right? I believe that, again, it's mainly about DEI, right? So Costco, everybody is, I read the comments, and again, I talked about the sit-in or buy-in that Al Sharpton had with Costco some months ago, and Costco brought back their DEI program, and immediately everybody's like, "Oh, we're going to shop at Costco, but we're not going to shop at Target." I don't have a problem with the boycott. I do think that it's not going to make much of a difference. I'll be honest with you. I think that what is the real goal at the end of the day? What is the real goal? Bringing back DEI. DEI efforts for corporations was really just something people jumped on all during the George Floyd protests back in 2020. I think a lot of corporations jumped on that. I think mainly for show. But does it make real difference in the Black community? Real investments in the Black community. I don't know. I don't really know if that's really a thing. I don't know if Target is really it's something to focus on, and they're a target, no pun intended, to focus on. I get it. And I think we're all trying to make something happen. And a lot of this is just really about anger about the Trump administration, but it's neither here nor there. The question is, do you think that boycotting Target will make any substantive difference in HBCUs or the Black community? Will it really make a difference? How much money is Target going to put into HBCU that's going to make a big difference, right? How much money is Target going to put? Target's going to put money in Black banks. I mean, what does that mean, right? So, for me, I'm just like, we need specific things that we're going after outside of the bullet points. What do we want those things to do, right? So most corporations are in America are white owned, right? It is what it is. So if people don't spend money at Target, a lot of people, they're spending money at Amazon, although they're saying they're not spending money at Amazon. We'll see. I don't believe that, because Amazon is too damn convenient. So Target to me is just the bad guy that we want to focus on, right? So for instance, let me take a look at something. Symbolically, I get it. We need a bad guy, like I said, and people need to be able to focus on somebody to dislike, somebody to go hard at. And that's what this thing is about. It's about emotion, right? But let's see. So Google, like I said, ended their DEI program. The decision is part of a broader trend in the corporates worldwide. Companies are reconsidering their DEI in light of the changing legal and political landscapes. Google also discontinued its DEI training programs and removed DEI content from broader employee training. Yeah, so this is pretty recent, right? So are we boycotting YouTube, right? I hope you don't boycott YouTube, because you wouldn't be watching me and a lot of other people. So we're not boycotting YouTube, right? So Google is big as hell. Do we boycott YouTube? My point is, there's a lot of people who ended DEI, right? Listen, honestly, I wish that DEI was not considered a Black issue in the Black church, because I think that there's many other things that the Black church could do.
Grassroots boycott hurt Target's bottom line. The company's stock price down nearly $44 per share from the end of January, when the retailer first announced it was ending DEI efforts. The boycott also gave rise to the Bullseye Black Market, a 3-day pop-up event directing dollars to Black-owned brands, one of them, Lamique Beauty.
Before 2020, you're looking at less than 5% of Black-owned beauty products on retailers' websites or on their physical shelves.
Kim Roxy, the owner, found her way on Target's website, but says sales for products listed on the website dropped amid the fast, but she's keeping her products listed.
I decided to keep my products on the website because they're there because of a Black woman who has a company called Amp Beauty LA.
True Laundry, an Atlanta-based detergent company, also featured.
Everybody uses laundry detergent. If you have a good product, then we have people of all colors and all races buying from it.
If Target decides tomorrow, if they lose enough money to bring back DEI, Jamal Bryant may not be happy. But guess what? If they do bring back the DEI initiative, I think a lot of people will continue to shop there. But even if you shut Target down, even if Target was to shut down tomorrow, does it change anything in the Black community? Is the Black community become enriched? Is there more opportunity for Black businesses? Is there more revenue flow or revenue circulation of money in the community? No, it really isn't. So we'll see. But I'm going to move on from that. This is something I had talked about a couple of months ago. I'm talking about another podcast. Now, this was one of my favorite podcasts as it was on its ascension. This is Maff Hoffa's My Expert Opinion. I really like this show for a couple of reasons. One, when it first came out, I loved the barbershop scene. That is something at the time I had never seen. I had never saw the barbershop be the set of a podcast, and it was a perfect setting because everybody know. I know I'm bald. I haven't had a haircut in a long time, but once upon a time, when I was a youngster, I went to the barbershop, and I know the barbershop is a great place to talk. It's always been a great place for conversation in the Black community, or in the community period, for whether you're Black, white, Spanish, whatever, Asian, whatever. Barbershops have always been a great place for men to really chop it up and talk. So now, Maff Hoffa's podcast, right? Here's the thing. I mentioned a couple of months back when Esso and Heineken left. These are two people, and Bigger, three people that left the podcast, amongst others. Now, I'm gonna go over to Rory and Mal, who used to be on the Joe Budden podcast. They had since a couple years back broke off from Joe Budden and started their own podcast. So Rory and Mal, they're interviewing Mecca, who is still one of the last remaining loyal soldiers to Maff Hoffa. The Maff Hoffa podcast, I say all this to say that, look, when you have a good podcast, right, it's not just the setting. It's not just the title. It's not just the host. It's about the chemistry. Podcasts, unless you're a solo guy doing a podcast, and Maff Hoffa has never carried that podcast by himself, right? He's interesting, but it's an interview-based podcast. It's not like something like this where I have panel podcasts and then I have episodes where I'm talking and I'm hosting the thing myself. Maff Hoffa is about interviews, and within those interviews, he has all his co-hosts. That chemistry is what made that show dope. Let me play Mecca talking on Roy and Mal's podcast. And
what is going on with My Expert Opinion?
I do not know.
The barbershop. I have been, just because, love the show, fuck with math. I've just been paying attention to what's going on. Mm-hmm. We're not here to judge. We understand how fucking crazy it is to try to keep a podcast business going. But where does this leave the show?
In the hands of the owner.
Okay.
In the hands of the owner. I don't have a lot of information as far as like where it's going to go. I found out a lot of things in real time with everybody else. I knew the lights were off.
Okay.
We went to do an episode. I'm the one who called him and told him the lights were off. Mm-hmm. So, that's jacked up. I told him to fight for the shop. Not because the aesthetic is so needed, but because I felt the way it was done was dirty. I don't think you should let people get away with the bullshit. So you should fight for the shop. But the spot isn't the show. The voices of the show. The energy is the show. You two could pick up, go someplace else and still be Rory and Mal. You know what I'm saying? Like when you left, when it was Joe Budden and then next thing it's Rory and Mal, you're still Rory and Mal. my expert opinion will be my expert opinion no matter where it is.
Agreed.
It's not. I don't like the fact that all the business is on Front Street, but that wasn't my call either. You dig? So we'll see what happens. Like we'll see what shakes out. People are hitting me up for answers that I'm kind of watching with everybody else. Like,
yeah. Here's the thing. He's absolutely right. A podcast will be dope no matter where you put it. Why? Because of who's on the podcast. It's the chemistry. So I put up this old clip. This is an interview they did with Tony Yayo a while back. This is when this is back when they still had a lot of the same co-hosts. So if you look over here to the right, that's SO. SO was on the show. This is way before they left the show. And then Heineken is right here. He's them two started Backfuel, and then of course you have Maff over here, and then over here is Bigger. This guy right here, Bigger, left the show too. Math Hoffa, and again, I ain't trying to knock him. I'm just saying I'm a fan of the show. I was a fan of the show, and to me, he lost some really good talent. These three guys, to me, SO, Heineken, and Bigger, they added a lot to the show. Now, Bigger was the OG. He was really like Maff Hoffa's security and did some other things, but Bigger was very religious. So he would kind of bring in his view on always bringing in Christ and things that he feels as far as his opinion from a religious point of view. And it would come in and it was just kind of left field because it was not a religious show, obviously, right? But the chemistry of having him on there, and then SO he managed Rockweiler, the producer who did a lot of stuff for Destiny's Child. So SO is a industry veteran. Heineken is also a veteran. He worked for This Is 50 and other stuff in the past. But these guys offered something to the show that was really good. And I think that when you have talent, you got to work hard to not let them go. Maff, in my opinion, he messed up because, and I said this a while back, I think he felt like, this show is going to be dope regardless to who I had on the show. So he lost three main people, and then he brought in a couple of other people. I kind of stopped watching the show because the last time I was watching it, it had what's homegirl that used to be with The Source? Her name is losing me right now, but Spanish woman. I can't think of her name right now. I don't know why I want to say Rosario, but I don't know. It doesn't matter. Anyway, she became a host, and then there was some other guy became a host. I forgot his name. They just went through too many different hosts, and that doesn't work for all podcasts. Unless you have a podcast, again, that has a strong main host and everybody else is like, I hate to say it, but even Joe Budden to a certain extent. Joe Budden was strong enough as the main host to lose Rory and Mal and still go on. But then, to Joe Budden's credit, Joe Budden did go on to grab some really good talent to help with the chemistry, and they work well, right? So Maff wasn't doing that. Maff, to me, had an attitude almost like, regardless to who I put in these barbershop seats, it's going to be a great podcast because I'm just going to continue to interview people. And I think that that's where he went wrong. I think the chemistry, this show was very much on an ascent, right? It was very much one of my top podcasts. I love to watch it because it was good. It was like Nori's Drink Champs. Drink Champs has been great. It's been ascending and doing well. And my expert opinion was like that podcast that was right alongside of Drink Champs. You know what I'm saying? That I would watch because of the chemistry, and it added something different. So when you have something good, you have to appreciate it. And I just feel that Maff really lost it with these guys because he just felt like, F you guys, I don't need you guys. The show is the show. It's dope. It's going to be dope regardless. And I don't think that's the case. You just can't replace everybody. Everybody's not replaceable once you have a certain level of chemistry, and that's unfortunate. I'm going to play a little bit more of Mecca and then see if there's anything else that he had to share. But it's unfortunate. Like I said, I really do like this show. And Mecca, he wasn't in that clip that I just showed, but Mecca is also a great host. And he, like I said, he's one of the last of the Mohicans as far as the original crew.
That's some popcorn. It's nuts. You see this shit? I was like, wow, fuck. Did you see that?
So you and Maff haven't had any personal conversations at all about it?
We spoke. We spoke months ago, and we knew that the landlord was like being a little.
He's moving funny,
shaky. You see him walking by, looking in, like when we're filming an episode, but dozens of people walk by and look in. You see a barbershop with a bunch of bright lights, you know what I mean, and microphones. Of course, you stop and what the fuck is that? So I didn't pay attention to I didn't even know what he looked like. And I stayed out of the business part of it. Like if I'm not involved, if I'm not directly involved, if I can't help in any way, shape, or form, I'm not injecting myself into anybody's situation, especially when it comes to finances.
Yeah, right.
Those are your pockets. You spend your money. You do what you do. I don't want to know how much you're making. I don't want to know. I'm from Queens. All I care about is my bread. I don't want any of yours. I need all of mine. That's the philosophy. And I'm not here to pocket check or pocket watch you under any circumstances. So as far as like the being, he did tell us when, homeboy was trying to, after the light thing, homeboy's trying to kick us out, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, well, he needs barbers and he's saying there's no, he told us all the same stuff that he said online. So yeah, we had that conversation, but.
Wait, the landlord said he needs barbers in the shop?
But I'm not saying anything that's not already.
Yeah, of course.
There's something in the contract that says you have to have barbers in the chair, or there's like a subsection where it says you can use it for other purposes, right? But the main thing is the barbers. And I can understand that if I'm a landlord and I own a spot and I walk by, 3 or 4 days out of the week and the shutters are down and the lights are off and this is my place, I want to see it active and moving. You don't want your building looking like it's abandoned, basically.
I mean, if the agreement, though, is per month, I owe you this, what I do with it is kind of none of your fucking business.
Unless there's a suspicion that you're doing something illegal.
Okay, which obviously that was not happening.
What?
In that.
If we selling drugs on camera, like, bro.
You might have just did something with that. We ain't think about that one. What you think RFK was there for?
So I don't know. I gotta do some deeper digging. I don't know if is it just an issue with money? Because I mean, this podcast has been around a long time. I mean, the podcast is probably, I want to say, at least 3 years old, if I'm not mistaken. Because Esso and Heineken and Bigger have been off the show well over a year. So, and I was watching that show before Esso and Heineken got on, because Maff had a different host initially. So the show's got to be at least 3 years old. I know it's been around since at least 2022, I want to say, maybe before that. But anyway, it is a great podcast. I hope they get it together. And again, like I said, I think that, again, you have a podcast, it's not easy to keep it together. If you have the type of show that's dependent on, your particular hosts coming through. But that podcast is on another level. It was at the time. He was making money. I'm sure he is still making money. But it's definitely not the podcast that it used to be. So again, my thing is, if you have talent, make sure you pay them, keep them. Everybody's not replaceable. I know that a lot of people feel like, anybody's replaceable. This is not like Walmart. This isn't McDonald's where anybody can hop on the fries and it doesn't matter. A podcast, especially if you have that chemistry and it's dope, you got to keep the talent. I said this before, because that's how you keep the money coming in. Because there's podcasts that get popular and then people stop watching. And people stop watching. Doesn't matter who you have interviewed. You know what I'm saying? Like, that podcast is not Art of Dialogue where he's behind the camera. It's not Vlad. It's not Joe Budden. It's not Drink Champs. It had something particular. So when you have a formula that's different than other podcasts, that's the secret sauce of why people are watching. Of course, people do watch for the interviews, but there's something about the chemistry in hosts that make people tune in. So that's my spiel on that. Anyway, if you have not subscribed to the channel, make sure you hit the subscribe button. Of course, Hit the like button for your turn on your notifications. Of course, hit the like button for the algorithm. I appreciate everybody popping into the Crucial Convo podcast. Peace, everybody. We'll talk to you on the next episode.